What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and we are just over 5 months away from the 2023 college football season. We're going to give you now my official predictions for ESPN College Gameday, week-by-week predictions here for the upcoming 2023 season. This will be my first time doing this kind of video. I've seen other sports channels do this, across YouTube, and, I thought, why not give it a shot here? And I do love to watch College Gameday every single morning at about 9 a.m. Eastern Time, where I'm located at in time frames and everything. And I enjoy College Gameday each and every single week by week, no matter what team it is and what other teams that they go to. Even though it's not my favorite team, I usually like to see them go to different states and see where that game's going to be held at. But we're going to give you my official predictions here, where College Gameday will go week by week here for the upcoming 2023 season. And normally when it comes to College Gameday, they usually go to a different location each and every single week, but sometimes they'll go back to the same location, 2 times a year. Last year they went to Knoxville 2 times last year, and this year it could be a little bit different. But, they usually don't have a week 0 game. They usually do like a studio show, or maybe they will go to a week 0 game, like a FCS game. But we're going to put a week 0 game on here just in case if they do go to a game. I don't expect them to go to this game, but we're going to get started here with my 2023 College Gameday predictions here for the upcoming 2023 season. So let's get started here with week number 0 on August 26th. And I think they will go to this game, Navy and Notre Dame, if they go to this game here and for their first College Gameday. But I don't really expect them to go to Dublin, Ireland. This is where the game's going to be held at. And also, this is an NBC game. I really don't expect them to go to games that are going to be on NBC or maybe on the CBS, channel. But I think they definitely will go to games that are on ESPN and also Fox for the Big 12. But I think this is definitely a game they would probably go to here in week 0. There's not really a lot of options. You got Vanderbilt and Hawaii there. Maybe they can go to that game in Nashville, but I really don't think they're going to give a lot of hype for this Vanderbilt team heading into this year. But this is the game that I think they'll go to in week 0 in case if they did go to a game day in week 0. But I think this is the only game that you can really say that they can go to. But usually they do a studio show. I'm not saying they're going to go to this game. I'm not saying they're going to probably go to this one. But it's definitely an NBC game, though, if they did go to it. So that's my week 0 pick, but I don't think they're going to go to a week 0 game. So we'll start with game by game now predictions, or week by week, I should say, for these game day predictions of where they're going to travel. So we'll start with week 1, and you got Colorado versus TCU here on September 2nd. You got other options. I mean, you got, of course, you got Tennessee and Virginia. You also got South Carolina and North Carolina. That could be a game they could probably go to in Charlotte. I don't think they're going to travel to those 2 neutral site games, though, in Nashville, where Tennessee's being held at, and then obviously in Charlotte, where South Carolina's being held at. But Colorado and TCU, this is the only game I see them going to. It's a Power 5 matchup. It's a Pac-12 versus Big 12. And I definitely think they're going to go see the runner-ups from the last year's national championship games. I mean, Colorado's going to be a different team this year. Of course, they have, Deion Sanders coming in, but I think this will be an interesting game here that they can go to here for the start of, College Gameday in 2023 in week 1. So this will be an interesting game here. I think this is the only game they could pretty much go to, though, in week number 1, because it is pretty much the only biggest game out there in week number 1. So let's go to week 2 now. In week number 2, it's an easy pick here. We got Texas and Alabama, a non-conference game here between the Big 12 and the SEC. They were at this game last year when it was at Austin, and this year they'll be in Tuscaloosa for this one here on September 9th. I definitely don't think they're going to miss out on this game here coming up on September the 9th. I think this will be an interesting game here that they'll go to, and Alabama's going to lose a lot of talent, but, they're still going to be really talented on both sides of the ball, and obviously Texas with a lot of hype coming in. I definitely think this is a game they don't want to miss automatically. I mean, who would not miss this game? And I don't think it's going to be a Fox game. Last year it was on Fox because it was a Big 12 game. or a Big 12 home field advantage game. I'm surprised it wasn't an ESPN game last year. I think this year I kind of expect it to be an ESPN game 100%, but it's also could be a CBS game. You never know, but I think this will be definitely 100% an ESPN game. It could be a 4 o'clock kickoff or maybe like a 7:30 kickoff. So I'm kind of expecting it to be a 7:30 kickoff maybe as well, but I think this is definitely the game that they'll go to here in week number 2 on September 9th. Moving on to week 3, it's an SEC versus SEC conference matchup on September 16th, South Carolina versus Georgia. And this is the only game that's really, interesting here in week number 3. South Carolina definitely has a lot of hype coming in, potentially a top 25 team. Spencer Rattler coming back for another year. South Carolina could be sitting here at, undefeated heading into this game against Georgia. They have that first game against North Carolina there, to start out the year. And they could probably start out, maybe a 2-0 perhaps, but Georgia's definitely going to be undefeated by this point. I don't really see Georgia losing any games whatsoever in the regular season. And I definitely think they're going to travel to Athens here to see the defending national champions, or I should say the back-to-back national champions here with Georgia. This is pretty much the only game I see on the schedule here in week 3 that is only interesting enough to where they can travel to, all these game days. So, you don't really have any other options here for week 3. And this is the only option I think they can go to. It's Georgia and South Carolina, though, in the SEC. It's always an interesting game that's played every single year in the month of September, but Georgia's kind of dominated the series as of late. They're going to be different this year, but Georgia, I kind of expect them to kind of roll over South Carolina in this game, but I don't think it's going to really happen. But this is the only game I see them going to here in week 3 for College Game Day on September 16th. That's week number 3. Week number 4, Ohio State versus Notre Dame, an interesting non-conference game here between the Big Ten versus Independent. Now, this game could be on NBC. It could be an NBC game or an ESPN game or a Fox game. I'm kind of expecting it to be an NBC game because Notre Dame usually has the NBC channel on all their regular season games, it seems like. You got other options here in week number 4, especially with Florida State and Clemson. That could be the game they go to in the ACC. I kind of expect them, to go to that game, but it was a really tough call here for me, and I'm going to say that they go to Notre Dame here for this Ohio State versus Notre Dame matchup. Last year, they could have probably gone to Columbus, Ohio for this game, but they were going to be at Ohio State for a second year with Michigan coming into the house from last year. So I kind of expect them to go to Notre Dame at least one time this year. Yes, I do have them in week 0, but that game is in Dublin, Ireland. So definitely this is the game I think they can really go to here week 4. If I was going to be a College Game Day host, I would definitely go to this game here between the Buckeyes and the Irish. I'm definitely looking forward to this matchup here in the non-conference. Probably one of the biggest games here on September 23rd in week number 4. Probably one of the biggest non-conference games, I should say, in week 4. So that's my week number 4 pick. Moving on to week 5, we're back in the SEC. We got Georgia versus Auburn. I kind of expect them to go to Jordan-Hare this year. This is the only option I have here for week number 5. And I think it's a pretty good pick. You got Georgia, the defending national champions, traveling to Jordan-Hare for a pretty tough road game here against the Tigers of Auburn. I think it will be an interesting game. I know Hugh Freeze coming in as the first-year head coach, but I think Auburn can make this game a little bit interesting in the first half, but I think Georgia's going to pull away in the second half. I just don't see Auburn beating Georgia, but this is a game that I think College Game Day definitely will go to. It's pretty optional. It's one of the oldest rivalries in the SEC as well. This one will be on September the 30th, so that's my Week 5 pick. Moving on to Week 6, we stay in the SEC. We got Alabama at Texas A&M on October the 7th. This is going to be a good one. This will be a pretty good game here between Alabama and Texas A&M. Both of these teams, maybe could sit here being both undefeated. I don't expect Texas A&M to be undefeated. Alabama may be undefeated heading into this game, or maybe they could have that one loss to Texas there, at home to Texas. But I kind of expect Alabama to be undefeated by this point. Texas A&M not undefeated, but this is definitely an upset alert type game. I remember a couple years ago, Texas A&M defeated Alabama at home, and they could probably do that again. But this is a game that I think College Game Day will definitely miss out on. It's an easy pick like the Texas and Alabama game. This is definitely an easy pick here for October 7th. There were other options out there, but this is definitely the game I think they will really go to here in week number 6. So let's now go to week number 7, and we go to the Pac-12. Now we got Oregon versus Washington. I definitely think they'll go to this game here in the Pac-12. It's two teams that are rivals and also some really good experienced quarterbacks in this game. Washington does have home field advantage, and also they do have the experience, more than Oregon. I think both of these teams are definitely, going to be top 10 teams and maybe also a top 15 teams. And I think College Game Day is going to go to at least a Pac-12 game here on this schedule with Oregon and Washington. And really, there's not a lot of Pac-12 games that are really interesting other than this one here with Oregon and Washington here in week number 7 on October the 14th. And Washington does have home field advantage in this game, like I just said. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Of course, Washington beat Oregon last year on the road. Oregon definitely could beat Washington this time, though. From last year. So this will be my week 7 pick here on October the 14th. Moving on to week 8, I think they head to the Big 12 here on this week. I think they head to TCU versus Kansas State. This one, in my opinion, is probably going to be a Fox game. I kind of expect it to be a Fox game just because it's the Big 12, perhaps. Kansas State and TCU met last year in the Big 12 championship, and that's the reason why I think they'll go to this game here in week 8 as well. And you got, the runner-ups from last year in the national championship, and you got the Big 12 champions from last year with the Kansas State Wildcats. This is going to be an interesting game. I expect a kind of a back-and-forth game between these two teams. Kansas State will have the home field advantage in this one, but it's going to be an interesting game no matter what the score is going to be. So I kind of expect both of these teams to really go back and forth. And like I said, I think College Game Day definitely doesn't want to miss out here on this week here on October the 21st. So that's the Big 12 for College Game Day. Let's now go to week number 9. And we're back in the Big 10. We got Ohio State versus Wisconsin. I think they at least travel to Wisconsin here for 1 year. I'm kind of expecting them to travel to Wisconsin, though, for this big game here against Ohio State. Because if Ohio State was sitting here undefeated by this point, or maybe with one loss, this is definitely going to be a really good game. I kind of expect Wisconsin to be a top 25 team, but maybe not. I mean, they could probably not sit there in the top 25, and they could be just an unranked team and probably perhaps pull off an upset with the Buckeyes. But this is definitely a game that's going to be not really winnable for Ohio State. It's not going to be an easy game here for the Buckeyes, and I think College Game Day definitely does not want to miss this type of game here in this week here on October the 28th. I'm kind of expecting a back-and-forth game here, but I do believe Ohio State has the better talented team. But watch out for the Badgers here in this game, and I think this is the game that, College Game Day could probably go to here in week number 9. I kind of expect it to be a Fox game or maybe an ESPN game as well. But let's now go to week number 10. We now go into the month of November, and we go to a non-ACC matchup here with Notre Dame and Clemson. I think this is the game they go to here in week number 10 to open up with November. And November is usually by the time where, teams start to, kind of, shake things up in the college football playoff. And some of these teams that we say that, have high expectations, they may not be really good by the time they get to the end of the season. But Clemson and Notre Dame, a rematch from last year. Notre Dame blew out Clemson last year at their place, and now this time it's at Clemson. I kind of expect them to go to Clemson at least one game this year. It could be that game against Florida State, but it could be this one here against the Irish of Notre Dame. I kind of expect them to go to this one, though, more than the Florida State game. This one will be on November 4th, and I think this will definitely be probably an ESPN game or maybe an NBC-type game, but I think they're going to definitely go to this one here for week number 10. I'm just predicting it consistently a little bit, but I'm going to say that they go to Clemson here for Notre Dame and Clemson here in week number 10. Moving on to week 11, we're back in the Big Ten. We got Michigan versus Penn State. I definitely think this is a game that they don't want to miss here on November the 11th. Michigan might come into this game undefeated. Penn State could be probably sitting there with one loss, probably to Ohio State. But Michigan definitely will probably be undefeated in heading into this game. But, never know. They could probably lose some game there on the schedule. But I think definitely both of these teams could probably sit there, with both one loss or maybe undefeated teams. This is definitely going to be a top 10 matchup. I'm kind of expecting it to be a top 10 matchup. Penn State does have home field advantage, and obviously it's a tough place to play at Penn State. Penn State could really pull off an upset here. You never know. But this is my pick here for Week 11. I think College Game Day would really go to this game here in Week number 11 on November the 11th. So that's my Week 11 pick. Moving on to Week number 12. We're back in the SEC. We got Georgia versus Tennessee here on November 18th. This is an easy pick as well. Georgia and Tennessee, two of the top teams in the East from last year, and definitely heading into this season, they are the top teams once again here, heading into this season as well. Georgia should be really good, on both sides of the ball, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then Tennessee, they got that high-powered offense, and they also got home field advantage in this game. However, who does have the experience in this game? I think both teams are kind of similar. I mean, they lost their starting quarterbacks from last year, lost some really good running backs, but I definitely think this is going to be a game that decides for the SEC East. I think, Georgia and Tennessee last year definitely kind of proved they were both really good contenders for the college football playoff. Definitely Georgia, though, because they were back-to-back national champions, and I definitely think they're going to go to Knoxville at least once again this year, but it's only going to be this game, though, here in late November against Georgia. And I think this is their really easy pick here for week number 12 on November 18. Let's now go to the last week here for College Game Day in week number 13. It's an easy pick as well on November 25th. It's definitely the biggest game, as always, in the regular season every year, and it's Ohio State and Michigan. Now, in the last couple years, Michigan has owned Ohio State, and it seems like College Game Day is giving more respect to the Wolverines than the Buckeyes now in the last couple years. We know Desmond Howard is a big Michigan fan, but he definitely picks Michigan every year. There's no question about it. I mean, they're definitely not giving Ohio State a lot of credit for this season, but this is definitely an easy pick here, and it's definitely going to be on Fox. I mean, it could be an ESPN game as well, but I think it's definitely going to be a Fox game because it is on the Big Ten. It is a Big Ten game as well, and last year was a Fox game as well, so I'm kind of expecting it to be a Fox game 100%, but this is definitely the biggest game each and every single year in the Big Ten between the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. I'm kind of expecting it to be a really good back-and-forth game. Michigan does have home field advantage, and also they've owned Ohio State now in the last couple years. Could that really get to the Buckeyes a little bit? But anyways, that's my Week 13 pick, and those are my 2023 College Game Day game week-by-week predictions here for the upcoming 2023 season. Let me guys know what you think about this week-by-week predictions. What are your week-by-week predictions for the upcoming 2023 season for College Game Day? Let me know down in the comments below, and stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.